Once again, it's 5:03 p.m. Wednesday, May 21st. You're listening to WFUTDB. And just making sure all my settings are right here. Great. So that was IDK by Harper Grace and Franklin Jonas. And my name is Tony Bacigalupo. I am hosting the show you're listening to right now, which is called You Are Invited. It's an hour where I talk to you about stuff that I have found that is awesome, that brings people together, that fosters togetherness, and gives us every excuse possible to get off of our couches, off of our phones, away from the algorithms, and in front of other human beings where we can foster real, meaningful connections together. This week, I am thrilled to be talking about bike parties. So here in Norwalk, Connecticut, we have an organization called Sustainable Streets. And in Sustainable Streets is an organization that's been around for a little while in the Norwalk area. And you can learn more about them at norwalkstreets.org. And I'm going to actually pull this up. So you can tune into this program in two different ways. One is through WFUTradio.com, and the other is through my YouTube live stream, which is, if you search Belongfulness on YouTube, you will find it there. And so you can see when you are watching my YouTube live stream, I will be experimenting with the idea of actually pulling up some slides, some live browser window tabs, things like that. So I'm going to try to keep things audio friendly as well. So if you're just listening in on the radio, totally fine. But if you want some visual aids, you can also tune in on the YouTube channel. Again, Belongfulness. So Sustainable Streets Norwalk, norwalkstreets.org, beautiful organization. They advocate for more walkable communities, more bikeable communities, more buses, just overall great mobility and transit mobility in the city of Norwalk. So these folks have organized in the past a series of events called bike parties. Bike parties are not a new thing by any stretch. There are bike parties taking place all over the world every single day. But here in Norwalk, the Sustainable Streets folks have organized them on summer Fridays. So throughout the summertime and late spring and early fall, most Fridays, they would organize a social, casual, all skill level bike ride. Now, as we'll get into in the course of this program, you'll see that the styles, varieties, the level of difficulty of these different social bike rides varies vastly. But in this particular context, they keep it super simple. And I'll explain to you kind of how that program works here, because I was recruited to take over leadership, at least stewarding that program for the time being, making sure that it happens and helping to lead it. So I've led the last couple of bike parties. I've scheduled the next couple of bike parties. So if you're in the Norwalk area and you would like to check out an upcoming bike party, you can look up Belongfulness in Norwalk. That's Luma, lu.ma/belongfulness-Norwalk. And you will find our upcoming programs for May and June, and we'll be adding more throughout the season as we're able to confirm. So the way that this works is you pick a spot, and of course, before you get into doing this, you want to know that it's going to be somewhere that people can get to easily, there's parking available, and critically, that you know that there's a route that will work for you and for your riders. So in this case, we met at 50 Washington Street, which is right in the heart of South Norwalk, right near the train station, near all the downtown shops and restaurants and things. And so it's a spot where we can easily gather people. There's lots of parking in the area, and we can jump off from there to other spots nearby. And fortunately, I have the benefit of building upon some of the other folks' work. And so there's actually a wonderful map that was put together by one of the members of the Sustainable Streets crew. And this is on Google My Maps. And he actually mapped out the different roads of kind of central and eastern Norwalk, and which roads are easier or harder to navigate. And so that gives us, even if we're not super familiar ourselves, some of these particular routes or locations, this gives you a good idea of what roads are better and what roads are maybe not so much. And so, actually, last week when I led one of these bike rides, I wasn't expecting to be in charge of navigating and ended up being in charge of navigating and improvised a little bit, ended up going on a pretty reasonably steep uphill climb. And so we made it fine, but I'm definitely going to have this in hand ready to go next time around. Make sure that we are not going to get ourselves in trouble again. So, one thing that's nice to just have your routes figured out. What we tend to do is we tend to go on one particular ride that we know involves a lot of bike lanes, ends up at the beach, which is always really nice and is generally really flat. And so, when we last couple of times we've done this, we've done mostly the same route. So, the other thing is during that initial time of setting up, getting ready, you've got this meetup point. It's a good time to get to know some of the people who arrive. As an organizer, you're always thinking in terms of before an event starts, how are you engaging the first person who shows up, the next people who show up? Because inevitably, if you have 10, 15, 20 people who come to an event, you're going to have some stretch of time when there's only one or two people there. And so, in this case, the first guy to arrive was this wonderful guy, Sebastian, who sent some photos last time he was with us. And then the second guy to arrive was someone who actually works in a bike shop. And Sebastian needed help with his bike. So the two of them actually started taking apart his bike and fixing things up. Point is that we were looking for opportunities to make conversation and make connection while we're waiting for other folks to join. One of the things that I also initiated kind of as part of my practice for this is I once we were just about ready to ride, I would round everybody up. I would invite everybody to introduce themselves. I would welcome them, let them know a little bit of the expectations of the community. One of the things that's discussed among some of the previous organizers is, how much, to what degree you emphasize the safety aspect. Of course, we want everyone to ride safely, but we don't want to go so far as to shame people for not wearing a helmet or something. So we want to be encouraging and supportive without being overly prescriptive. And so we go over a little bit of that, ask if anybody has any questions, because we do have such a knowledgeable and supportive group of people. We can, have a place for people to get their questions answered, which I think is so valuable and so important. And then we get to the bike riding. And so with the actual bike riding part, we have one person in the front who is the navigator and the lead. They're in charge of making sure that they're taking the right route and looking out for any potential traffic hazards ahead. And then you've got people in the rear, one person whose job it is to bike as slow as the slowest person biking. Super valuable. And I think just a really handy way for somebody who's coming to the event for the first time to feel safe, to feel like they're not going to get left behind. We want to make it really clear this is a group for everyone. and it's totally okay for you to ride at whatever speed, whatever cadence works for you. So with one person in the front, one person in the back, we kick on some music and we get rolling. I got some lights on my bike to set a little bit of a decor vibe for the event. And what we do is we hit the road and we start moving. One of the things that I learned from a couple of the folks who joined the last bike party. These were folks who were coming from different parts of the Fairfield County greater area. They were really accustomed to calling out, slowing down, stopping, any cars coming up from behind. And so everyone kind of was getting these audio signals anywhere along the group, but as the person who was up front, I started trying to take initiative to call out, hey, if I'm going to start slowing down, let me make sure that the people behind me are paying attention and that they know that I'm going to be slowing down. You know, you don't get brake lights on a bike the same way that you get in a car. So doesn't hurt to just make sure that everyone is aware of any changes to the plan that are going to be happening. And that involves turns too. So if you're coming up on a turn, obviously we have hand signals, but doesn't hurt to call it out. So I thought that was a really cool new piece that I learned from the folks that joined us last week. So thanks to them. And then we just enjoy the ride and we take it easy. We look out for any potential hazards and start talking to each other. So I've gotten to know some of the other people in this community so much better just by virtue of spending some time riding alongside one another. And that's been a real joy for me. So that's cool. And one of the things I've also learned is that riding as a group affords you some more flexibility in terms of how you occupy the road. So if you are in a dedicated bike lane, of course, everyone stays inside the line, inside the bike lanes, and we all feel pretty safe. If we're in an area that does not have any kind of a bike lane, uh, generally speaking, our best bet is to kind of stay off to the right side, not take up a lot of space, let cars move around us, especially if it's a busier road. But if it's a quieter side street, or if it is a marked shared path, so if you ever seen one of those bike icons painted on the street with the arrows, but no lane, that means that bikes and cars are intended to share that path, and bikes, even one bike, is allowed to take up the entire car lane. And so that's important because during those stretches, we can ride side by side. And it's a lot easier to have a conversation when you're not when one of you doesn't have their face facing away from the other person talking in the wrong direction. So it's nice to have some of those side street moments to ride alongside some of the other cyclists and just get to know them. Great venue for making conversation because you could talk about whatever. I think the physical act of moving while you're making conversation is a really great way to diffuse awkwardness or any kind of social discomfort. There's something about the fact that you're both moving your bodies, you got the air moving, and you're seeing different things moving past you. I think it just helps to make conversation a little bit easier to make. And of course, you have all of the stimulation of whatever stuff you are seeing. And so, even on just a couple of bike rides that I've done in the area, I've discovered parts of Norwalk I've never seen before. I've seen beautiful homes, beautiful sights, just discovering a lot of the magic that Norwalk has to offer. And that is the kind of thing that you don't see when you're driving in a car, when you're going point to point and maybe a little faster. And it's something that you don't really see if you're on foot either. So, biking really does afford a really unique perspective on your area. And doing so in a group gives you the opportunity to notice things together and discuss them and appreciate them. So makes for some really good moments and special times. So then we end up what I would call is kind of the destination, kind of the break or resting point. And the two times I've done it, it's been at Calf Pasture Beach, which is a solid 3.5, 4 miles from the starting point. And so it's a good time to take a break, There's actually at Calf Pasture Beach a station where you can tune up your bike. So there's some equipment there. There's a spot where you can raise up your bike and work on it very easily. So it makes for a nice stopping point. And of course, at Calf Pasture Beach, you've got bathrooms, water, uh, and now Ripka's Cafe for some snackies and things like that. If you're in the market for it. And when we went on Friday, we discovered that there was live music, which I try to keep up. I mean, I am as big of a community nerd as anybody, but I did not realize that there was going to be a live music performance that we were biking ourselves into. So that was super fun, and we um, got to enjoy that music a little bit before heading on back. And so that's fun. And then one of the things that I do also, I should mention this, I do this either before we leave or during this middle part, ideally both. Got to get a selfie. Those group shots are just so important. Even just one photo of a group of smiling faces is so important for lowering the barrier to subsequent groups of people who are maybe a little bit more hesitant to join an event they've never been to before. When you see, hey, this isn't a bunch of people who are wearing spandex and have their $10,000 road bikes. Like, this is a casual group. It's an approachable group. It's a friendly group. And by the way, it's not just one crazy guy who's organizing this thing. There are real people who have showed up and are having a good time. And so just having those photos gives you a cover photo to put on your next event. So it's not just a graphic. So important to get a selfie. And of course, you can post the photo and tag the other people who have been involved. Just lots of benefits to having at least one good photo. So we take that photo. We then talk about going back. And what I say is, okay, we're going to go back exactly the way we came, pretty much. We're just going to, basically head straight back to the original spot. And if you need to peel away, as maybe we go past a spot where it's easier for you to get home if you just bike straight home, totally fine. We expect people to peel away as we go. But I will bike all the way back to the origin point of 50 Washington Street for anybody who wants to continue all the way to the end. In some cases, we can go to dinner. We can do other stuff after that. Now, that is what Bike Party has been up to this point, and we are just getting started with it. And for this show, I have been doing some research. And so I am learning all about so many of the different kinds of biking events that are happening all over the world. And it is really quite amazing to see all the different kinds of things that people are doing. So I'm just going to pull up a few of the things that I found. So, for example, out in, what is this, Santa Barbara? Oh, South Bay. I'm sorry, South Bay. They have Beach City Cycling Club of South Bay. And this is a group that has over 260 members. They ages 23 to 83, and each group is 10 to 15 or so riders. They have rides going on every day. So if you look on their calendar literally has at least one, if not several, group bike rides every day of the week, weekdays and weekends, some case double. And uh, there's different themes. So there's this night riders group, which starts at 5:30 p.m. and is, I guess, a little bit more of a uh, music themed and a little bit more of a party group. There's a Sunday fun day ride up to a whale watching opportunity, which is pretty cool. So there's so many different ways to organize group bike rides, and I've just been so inspired seeing so many of these different kinds. On Saturday, they do L1, L2, L3, L4 local rides. So they have basically four different levels of difficulty. Now, these range from 31 to 51 miles. For reference, here in Norwalk, we go about 7.5. So we are definitely keeping it casual, but there are plenty of opportunities to go a little bit more ambitious as well. In Ohio, actually. So there is the Cleveland Touring Club, which has been around for a long time, and they have a group trip that they do in Sunday. This just happened last month to the Geauga County Maple Festival, and so they actually have a pancake ride. So they will head to the festival, and they literally say, "Come hungry," as there will be all you can eat pancakes before the trip back. I cannot imagine going on that ride back with a belly full of all you can eat pancakes. But this crew, as you can see if you're looking on the live stream, feeding so many pancakes, and again, a wide variety of ages. A lot of a lot of older folk in this particular one. Um, and it's just so many good times. So, San Jose Bike Party is one of the more well-known ones. They have a lot of themed rides. If you look through, for example, their Insta account, you'll see Sonido Clash, Cico, what's that? Monociclo, pre-Thanksgiving with a DJ, a safety ride, a Coyote Valley bike tour. So there's just so many different ways to do this, and I'm excited because I feel like we can draw some inspiration from this for future bike parties here in Norwalk. And we'll pre-share the bike route in advance. I definitely would like to get to this in Norwalk's bike parties. So you can see here, this is ridewithgps.com, where you can chart out a planned route. It will show you the elevation change and the distance, and the grade. So really handy in terms of giving people an idea of what to expect when they come out for a ride. So, it just takes a fair bit of work to put together, but I think it helps lower that barrier. And I'm sure you can recycle some of these once you think of doing it more than a few times. Um, Also, San Jose Bike Party, I just wanted to shout out their Instagram account, a hand drawn save the date. And just with a nice little bit of penmanship and a couple of nice colored markers, you can actually make a pretty nice flyer for your event without having to resort to a graphic design program or AI or any of those things. So this literally says save the date, Saturday, May 24th, bike the limits, a couple of details coming soon. And it's hand drawn with 3 colors of marker. And I wanted to bring this up to illustrate the fact that, yeah, there is so many ways to just get the word out, share, discuss, get people talking to each other, get people get the word out about what's going on without putting a lot of barriers up for yourself. And I am saying this in part to myself because I got some flyers to make, and I'm starting to wonder if I should just hand draw them because as much as I try to get something looking good digitally, there's some mystique, some appeal to having a hand drawn flyer or document. And I suppose you could still kind of paste on a QR code because QR codes make everything so much easier. But having the hand drawn promotion, always a big help. So I want to talk a little bit about a couple of the other things. So there are charity rides. This is something I would definitely like to do at some point later in the season. So for this particular group, in these guys are in Lewiston, Utah. They do once a year a ride called Little Red, and it is specifically a fundraising event. Goes from 17 to 100 miles. Sponsored, organized by the Bonneville Cycling Club, and in this case, they're benefiting fights against breast cancer and ovarian cancer, benefiting the University of Utah's Huntsman Cancer Institute. And they have a bunch of sponsors. So, just doing something good for your local community, fundraising for a local organization for a good cause is such an easy way to take something that is good and make it great. And I've seen this myself. I've thrown a lot of parties, but the best parties I've ever been a part of have been ones where there is a charitable purpose, where there's a reason for people to get together. We have a person that we're looking to support, or a cause, and a specific reason to be supporting that cause when we're doing it. And so you take something like a bike ride group, you've got people who like to ride bikes together. Let's ride bikes together in a way where we're also using that as a chance to raise money. Very visible, very easy to get people excited and on board. So I just feel like it's a great way for people to support what you're doing and create just a layer of meaning. And I'll also say this is so important for um, us in general as we are trying to find our um, more meaningful communities, that we want to be able to have um, more meaning, more purpose. Just doing fun stuff together is a nice start, but doing fun stuff together where it actually has some kind of a positive impact on ourselves in form of self-improvement is good. On other people in our community, way better. And if you haven't volunteered in a while, I highly recommend it. There are a number of volunteer opportunities that are out there, and we'll be talking more about some of those in coming episodes. But big fan of looking for ways to add more meaning to an existing program. Uh, Look for ways to fundraise. And if you're not sure where you could fundraise, you can always talk with other people, because there's always somebody out there who could use some help with fundraising for something. And so there is no shortage of good causes to support. One of the things I'm also noticing about the group bike rides, I mean, it hits so many points because it could be done for free. It can be done anywhere. You don't need a venue. It doesn't cost, right? It doesn't cost anything to do any of this. You do need a working bike, and that is a barrier for some people. But a lot of people do have a bike, and you're moving your body, you're getting fresh air, you're discovering your town, you're learning what it's like to interact with that town's streets, not from a car, if you're used to being in a car a lot. And getting that fresh air, moving your body is just such a good thing in so many different ways. So I'm a big fan of the idea of bike parties for those reasons and more. But on top of that, you get to add a couple of other layers that are really fun. One is music. So we've only just really started warming this up, but I am going to start charging up the Bluetooth boombox for the next bike party to respectfully have some good jams going on. You get some music, you get some lights, you can dress up, you can dress silly. And I think anytime we can do something that allows people to express themselves, to wear colors, to wear um, funky outfits, to wear lights and, headgear, just to be silly together, I think is so, so, so valuable and so important. And so, even just looking through, for example, the Little Red Rides group, that there's so much encouragement of that, and I think we're going to have to do uh, some themed ideas as well for future bike parties, because I want to encourage some of this activity, get people being a little silly, breaking out some fun stuff from their closets. So that is another benefit, and I'm a big fan of it. You can also, of course, attach this to food and drink. So, a Taco Tuesday bike ride, why not? There's already a really great graphic on the internet of a taco riding a bike. Of course, there is so many easy ways to theme these things up. And certainly, gears and beers. Uh, uh, there's no shortage of ways you can do bike and uh, bar crawl type setup. So, of course, don't BUI because it's just as bad as DUI. So, uh, mind that. Um, yeah, so I'm a fan of that. I have been doing this for a couple of times now, but we're going to have a lot more coming up here in Norwalk. And if you want to organize your own bike party, I would love to support you in doing that. Um, and on my LinkedIn, my personal LinkedIn page, I wrote a story of hosting my first bike party. And at the end, I included my recipe for start party. And that includes, of course, having a working bike and the associated gear, which is not to be taken for granted. Bikes can be annoying. Can I just say bikes can be annoying? There are a lot of things that need maintenance and improvement. It can be expensive to get parts replaced and to get the labor to tune up a bike. But once you have a bike tuned up and working great, man, it makes it feel like it's all worth it. And then, of course, access to fellow biking enthusiasts. So if you don't already have an existing network, uh, this that's something that you kind of have as a prerequisite. You want to try to find at least a few other biking enthusiasts. One way to do that, and this might actually be the second segment of our show, is to how you grow your audience. One way to do that is to find adjacent communities. What do I mean by adjacent communities? It could literally be communities that are geographically adjacent to where you are. So if, for example, I want to start a bike party in Rowayton, I could come to the bike party in Norwalk, and I would probably find people at the bike party in Norwalk who would be happy to come to the bike party in Rowayton. And there's, certainly some opportunities for cross promotion when you start getting to know the other organizers who run some of these groups, things like that. We'll talk a little bit more about building a community from scratch and how to build your network after I finish this little bit here. So, you want a working bike, you want access to some people, you want a knowledge of where those safe bike routes are. So, if you know the streets well, map out some ideas for different routes, some different distances, different difficulty levels, and ideally go on a test run with a couple of friends or just by yourself. Take some notes. Make sure that you have a good idea. What you want to avoid is being blindsided. There's nothing uh, quite like making a turn on a bike only to find that the direction you're supposed to go next is straight up a nasty hill. So there's that. And then, of course, there's the safety concern about making sure you're taking a route that uses, the safest roads that you can. Uh, there is strength in numbers in the sense that when you have, a dozen different cyclists riding all at the same time, it is harder for a car to not notice. But it's still, certainly plenty of roads where it's less safe than others. So you want to make sure that kind of what to expect. Need a date, time, and a meeting spot. Meeting spot ideally is somewhere where people can um, convene a fair number of people and a fair number of bikes. So we meet in a park. Probably also wouldn't hurt to meet outside of a cafe or some kind of a place where people could go inside, go to the bathroom, get some water, whatever they need. But having just a good spot to convene people is good. I recommend having some kind of a Bluetooth speaker or something that can play music. So you can just give it a little bit of signal, a little bit of vibe, of energy. And of course, as you're going by, people are going to turn their heads. They're going to wonder what the heck's going on. And that's part of what we're excited about too. And part of why Bike Party is really cool because it's visible. Most events that happen, practically all of them, happen in one place. They're mostly indoors, some of them are outdoors, but even then, they are in one physical spot, and anybody who sees what's going on is just people who happen to be in that particular location. And of course, anything indoors, it's going to be very hard for there to be any kind of street traffic in terms of visibility of what's going on. A bike party is extremely visible. And I think that that is an important aspect of this as well, because when a bike party goes by, if you don't know that there's a bike party going on and you see a bunch of people rolling by, and there's music, and there's LED lights on the wheels, and there's funky clothing, things like that. Um, okay, well, you might think, okay, these are a bunch of weirdos, but at the very least, you're thinking these are people who are getting together and doing stuff together, and it's very hard to maintain a narrative in your head that there's nothing going on in town when you see actually there is something going on in town. There are these people who are getting together and biking. Maybe you aren't going to be the one to go ride with those folks. Maybe you are. But at the very least, you know stuff is going on in this town and might just warm you up to the idea that there might be something else out there that you'd be interested in doing as well. And so creating that perception that this is a bike party. This isn't just a group of people going for a ride. Having some music, having some lights, maybe having some funky clothing or decor, I think goes a long way in terms of making it a program that could be really special. So once you've got that initial crew, you've got the location, you make sure that your stuff is ready to go. You know, one thing you always want to be mindful of as an organizer is you don't want to become a liability to your own program. And so if you're going to be leading a bike party, make sure your bike is working, make sure you got all the stuff that you need so that you don't have to worry about you becoming a liability to the rest of the community if something goes wrong. And like I said, get familiar, show up early, and yeah, I made a note. I talked about this a little bit in the blog post that I wrote. Uh, Savor that moment anytime you run an event, a new program, when nobody has shown up yet. And you have that moment of wondering if anybody's going to come. Because it's happened to me so many times, despite having been a community organizer for 18 years plus now. It still happens to me. And there's just something nice about it, a little bit of a moment of uncertainty. And of course, by the by, if nobody shows up, that's okay. It's information. You're going to use that as information to learn how to do the next event better. And we could talk a little bit about how to ensure against no shows and how to increase the chances that people will show up to your event in future programs. So we've got that. And then, uh, you know, I think one of the things I want to practice, and this is something I definitely want to think about even before the next bike party this Friday, is the conversation making and breaking down any potential awkwardness. Sometimes people show up, they're still kind of shaking off the rust from their workday. Maybe they're not super comfortable because this is a new community. They don't really know what to expect, or, especially with bikes, people can get very self conscious. So, wanting to really be proactive about making people feel comfortable, making people feel welcomed, and making just good, casual, quality conversation as people arrive, especially in the beginning. And again, communicate, let people know what to expect. Tell them this is, we meet at 7, we leave around 7:20, and we are back by 8:30. So set expectations, you know, if you got to be home for dinner or whatever, this is when we are going to be done by. And in our case, this is a casual ride. No rider's too slow. Everybody is welcome. And again, designate somebody to ride it in the front and in the back. And I have found that among a group of people, there's always one person who's more than happy to be the person in the back because it kind of gives them permission to ride slow. So I found that to be useful. Give people space to ask questions. It's also super handy. I found that in a bike party, there are a number of people at different skill levels, which means you have some people who maybe know very little about their bike and maybe are overdue for fixing something or tuning something up, or have some issue with their bike that they don't really know what to do about. And inevitably, there's at least one, if not a few, experts in that group who could examine the bike, could answer your questions, maybe even pull out a tool and tune something up for you. And that's part of the beauty of being in community together as well, right? Is that there are people who appreciate getting help. There are people who love to help, and you as a organizer can facilitate the connection between those two, and that's always a good thing. Don't forget to take your selfie for all the reasons that I've mentioned. So valuable to be taking that selfie, and then enjoy. Right, go on your ride. Don't worry too much about everybody else. Of course, keep an eye on it, but make sure that you're also enjoying the beauty of going for that ride. Also important, collect contact info. So if there's somebody who's new, somebody who joins along, get their info as soon as you can, and make sure that you are following up and keeping those people in the loop for future rides. I personally keep a little note. I use Apple Notes. So I have a note just for bike party, and for every bike party event, I have I add a new entry to the top of my note for that date, and I note down who attended. I note down any names of new people who have joined, so I can go back and remind myself, oh, who was that new person? What was their name? What was their Instagram? They told it to me. Whatever it is, I have an easy spot to go back to. I do this for the radio show, by the way, too, is that every episode I will take notes after the fact of anything that I want to do differently for next time. And so for every bike party, I have notes on how to do the next bike party better. And just getting into that habit of anything that I do regularly, any kind of program that I run, I have a running note with notes of what happened, who I encountered, anything that I need to follow up on, and ways to make it better. And then, of course, super valuable and super important is making sure people know when the next one is. So, inevitably, unless you're doing kind of the pilot one, you're not sure if you're going to do it again, things like that. If you know for sure the next one's coming, people are going to ask about it. People are going to want to know, is it happening? When's it happening? People love habit, people love regularity. And so, if you can do it on a regular cadence, doesn't have to be weekly, could be monthly, could be twice a month, whatever works for you. Um, Getting that cadence going and sticking to it goes a really long way. And make sure you got those events on your calendar. Make sure that you have blocked out what's coming up and what conflicts might be coming up. So, one of the things that I do is I put together a list of key dates for the coming season. So I do this for the summer in particular, where I map out every weekend between now and Labor Day and which ones are committed. We have, Mother's Day, Father's Day, we have a couple of birthdays, we have a couple of anniversaries, whatever other traditional holidays, things like that. And then there's what's left over, and we start filling in the blanks so that we know what days we are or aren't available for certain things. So that helps just so much, because what I don't want and what I get tempted to do sometimes is to not know when the next one is and then fall behind. Because if I fall behind, then it gets a lot harder to promote. It gets a lot harder to get people to come out to the next one if you don't know if or when it's happening. And so just planning your own schedule in advance and identifying your openings, identifying your conflicts just creates a lot of opportunity for you to make sure that stuff is going to go smoothly and people can plan accordingly for when it's going to happen and when it's not going to happen. So that's bike party. We've got about a dozen minutes left, and I did promise one kind of bonus topic to talk about, which is what do you do when you want to host something, when you want to build a community, but you don't yet have a network, when you don't yet have people to reach, which is kind of important. When you're trying to build a community, you're trying to get fruit to spring out of the ground. But if you haven't put down any seeds, then you're just going to be tilling dirt. And so you need to be able to set that particular. You need to be able to set up your environment for you to have success as an organizer. The last thing that you want to do is have a event where you're just throwing it out there hoping people show up. You don't want to count on Meetup or Eventbrite or social media to bring you your first people, because you don't know who those people are going to be, and the show up rates of those people is very low. So ideally, you want to start with some existing connections that you already have. So how do you do that? I mentioned the first one earlier, which is existing communities, and I mentioned adjacent communities. So, like I said, if I wanted to start a bike party Rowayton, I would definitely want to start attending Bike Party Norwalk, because that would give me all kinds of folks who could join my bike party just down the street, and also connect me with leadership and create opportunities for cross promotion. So that's one thing. Another thing is adjacent in another way, which is adjacent in terms of interest. And so if you want to start a bike party, you could look at what are the other bike related groups, what are the other running related groups, active groups, fitness groups, things like that. Anywhere where you might likely find people who either would fit the bill or would know people who fit the bill. And this is where using your existing connections, your existing interests and knowledge becomes super important, because it could be totally unrelated too. It could just be adjacent in the sense that it's adjacent to you, that you have a church community you're a part of, or a CrossFit community, or a book club, or whatever it is. If you have an existing network of people that you're close with, that you have established trust with, and that you're connected to, that creates a lot of opportunity for testing the waters, finding out where there are at least one or two or three other people who might be interested in what you're doing. And you could also use your existing connections, any communities you're a part of, to find out about groups that exist that you might not know about that might be a little closer. So maybe there is some kind of a bike related organization nearby that you don't know about, that somebody might be able to tell you about and get you a little closer to your goal. And then there's hanging out, just finding places to go where you will run into people and where connections will emerge. So here in Norwalk, I've talked about this before. Eco Evolution is a great example of this, where the baristas are super friendly. They will introduce you to the other customers. It's in a very central place, a very warm and welcoming and spacious environment. And so it's a kind of place where you can just go, and you will run into people, and you will start to get to know the regulars, and they will introduce you to other people, and good things will just start to happen as a result of that. And so um, if you don't know where those hangout spots are, highly recommend go check out every cafe in a 20-minute radius from where you live. Check out bars, check out libraries, bookstores, wherever you think there might be the hangout energy that you need, and start spending time there, ideally on a regular basis. Um, and then also, in terms of just getting the word out and spreading the word, once you do have a few core connections, you can start posting online. You can post on Eventbrite. You can post on Luma. You can post on Nextdoor. You can post in local Facebook groups. And if you're not ready yet to promote something, you do have a big advantage in that you can just be a person. You don't have to be somebody who's trying to promote a brand or a thing that has a URL. People tend to filter that out a little bit more, because we're just so used to being spammed and sold to in so many ways. And so if you are just posting into a community saying, hey, I'm thinking about starting a group bike ride. Do you know anybody who'd be interested, or anything like that? It's a little bit easier to get past some of the barriers that people might put up to, otherwise self-promotional content. And so, definitely take advantage of that. One other thing I would also recommend is physical flyers, physical signage. We talked a lot about that in last week's episode with Alex Chaska of Bunch. She has used flyers extensively and very successfully, as have I, and looking for the right places to place those flyers. But also, really evaluating, assessing, auditing, that's the word, auditing your existing connections. A lot of times people think that they don't have anybody that they can reach out to, that they can promote to. And it turns out not to be true once you actually think through who you know and what kinds of connections you have. And so when you start to just go through who are my recent text messages, my recent Instagram DMs, emails, my recent contacts, who are people that I know that I maybe forgot that I know. So just for example, just in the course of me talking right now about this strategy, I am realizing that I've done a couple of bike parties, but there are a bunch of Norwalk people I have not reached out to even tell them that it's happening. And duh, that's really easy. It gives me an excuse anyway. There's a lot of people that I would love to talk to anyway. So let me get it out there and go talk to some people and just let them know, hey, this is happening. I'm excited about it. And if you know anybody who's interested, send them my way. And of course, I'd love to see you. So, things like that, I can't emphasize enough the value and importance of individual face to face or even just individual messages sent to people. And that's part of why the show is called You Are Invited. It's because the actual act of invitation is one of the most powerful things we can do to foster connection in the places that we live. And so, just taking a moment right now as we're talking about this stuff, think about who you maybe are due to reach out to. And this doesn't have to be for a bike party. This could just be for catching up. It could be for setting up a little dinner party, a double date. If there's something that you've been meaning to do, person you've been meaning to get together with, catch up with, this is your invitation and your challenge. Think about what names come up to mind as I am talking to you right now. Pull out your phone and send them a message. It doesn't even have to be something specific. It doesn't have to be an invitation at first. It could just be an inside joke from years ago. It could be an animated GIF. It could be whatever, right? Just a little hey. And I'm sure that there are several people that you could think of very quickly who would be thrilled to hear from you, thrilled to get that message from you. If you want to be really bold, you could even pick up the phone and just call them. I have been so happy to have received calls like that from dear friends of mine over the years. And look, sometimes you can't answer the phone, and that's totally okay too. So, uh, highly recommend just don't discount the fact that there are people in your life that you can connect with, that you can reach out to, and maybe they're not all going to join you for the next bike party, but if you get the word out, if you get talking to a few of them, they might point you in the right direction. And all you need is a couple of people to get the show rolling. You take that selfie, you start talking to people about it, they start talking to their friends, and you get some really neat network effects kicking in. But we got to prime that pump. We can't count on the socials and the internets to do all the promoting for us. So, again, highly recommend think about those people that you know. Also, here's another Apple note, and I should refresh mine because I have an old one, but I want to get it going again. List of people that I want to know better. So, inevitably in life, we meet people that we think are neat. And especially as adults, it can be a little hard to reach out to someone that we don't know that well and say, like, hey, I think I'd like to be friends. Hey, let's do something. At the very least, we could say, hey, you want to grab a cup of coffee sometime or whatever. But maintaining that list and revisiting it frequently, I think will yield all sorts of fruit if you get into the habit of doing that and revisiting it. So, I will do that. If you start doing it, let me know because I think that's a great little habit to get in. So I'm going to start winding it down as we approach the turn of the hour. You're listening to WFUT Factory Underground Radio, broadcasting from Norwalk, Connecticut, here in Fairfield County, just a little over an hour outside of New York City, home to your New York Knicks, who are hosting Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals tonight, and I'm so thrilled for that. We have been a long-suffering fan base, and our days are looking a little bit brighter right now. So if you have a Knicks fan in your life, send them some love because this is a very special time, and we're all a little bit nervous too. You can find me on the internet. I'm Tony Be Good, TonyBgoode. on all the socials, and you can find our live broadcast of this program, all the past episodes, on our YouTube channel, which is called Belongfulness, BELONGFULNESS. And of course, you could find my program every Wednesday at 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And WFUT Radio is broadcasting 24/7 at WFUTradio.com and on TuneIn Radio. And we'll catch you next week at the same time. And what the heck else was I going to say? I'm sure there was something else. Well, I guess that's going to do it. If you want to reach out and you know anybody that I should be interviewing for the show or any great programs, would love to hear about it. You can reach out to me, Tony, Tony, at belongfulness.com. Would love to hear from you. So we're just approaching the turn of the hour, just about 30 seconds to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Once again, my name's Tony. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging with you here, and we will catch you next week. Look for reasons to get out of the house, be around other people, make connections, make friends, and get away from those screens. Look for every opportunity you can. We'll catch you next time. Take care, everyone.